We've had our fair share of just people that were not a good fit.
Outside of optometry, everyone's heard of Ray-Ban Metas and, now the new Oakley glasses. So I think a lot of technology companies are starting to understand how they can, use wearables in the eyewear space. Sometimes you can shoot for the top, and you can learn and grow a little bit more along the way without feeling like you have to dim your light.
This is Optometrists Building Empires, and I'm your host, Ankit Patel. Each week, we'll explore the journey of practice ownership and leadership in optometry. Join us for insights and strategies from the top minds in our field. This show is sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team helps your office increase revenues, reduce costs, and reduce staffing headaches. Let's build your empire together. Today's guests are a powerful duo in the eye care world. He's a dedicated clinician who brings a refined blend of clinical excellence, personalized care, and genuine passion for patient well-being. He's strengthened his training through diverse clinical experiences through a sports vision externship supporting Major League Baseball spring training camps in Florida and Arizona. He received the San Diego County Optometric Society Young OD of the Year 2024. Today, he serves on the board of San Diego County Optometric Society, contributing his leadership to the future of eye care in his community. She's a highly accomplished optometrist, leader, and myopia management advocate whose passion for eye care is both professional and beyond deeply personal. She received the Marshall B. Ketchum Distinguished Alumni Recent Graduate Award in 2023. Today, she's a prominent voice in the San Diego optometric community, serving on the board of the San Diego County Optometric Association, acting as the San Diego Optometric Divas Ambassador, and advising on the board of Oculogics Optimal GPT. They are co-owners of Eyecare at the Cove Optometry. Please welcome doctors Alyssa Pack and Justin Nguyen. Guys, welcome.
Thank you so much. We're happy to be here.
Yes.
Well, it's fun interviewing couples because I know you all know my wife is also in the business, but I'm not a doctor. She is. So it's kind of fun seeing that different dynamic. So with that, since you guys are building a business together, I'm curious, what was the most important thing that helped you all grow your empire?
Yeah, it's most important thing. Now that we're kind of entering year 4, I would say that it's like having a positive mindset and just having that priority to continue to develop. I think psychology is important with mindset, thinking about not just working or seeing patients, but also like growing the practice and building that part.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more. Alyssa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really about building a community within our area of La Jolla as a whole, building a community within our patient base, building a community and a team within our office itself. So we really love reaching out to our local community, and we really think that by building a family network within our own practice, that's really helped us to really skyrocket in terms of our growth.
Let's dig into that a little bit. So building that family and the mindset. So give me an example or stories where, and I'll let you start, Justin, how mindset made a difference in your practice, that you had to make a tough decision and you kind of relied on that mindset to get you through it.
Yeah, sure. As I just reflect on how my mindset was when we first opened for the first 2 years, it was very stressful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's a lot of these things we don't learn in school. And I think figuring out how to manage that stress, manage the emotions, just ultimately allows you to overcome the obstacles that come with ownership, whether that's like managing your staff, having the majority of your staff call out. Those are some examples where in the beginning you're like, oh my gosh, you feel like the world's crashing down sometimes, but then you look back and it's like, well, we're gonna manage, we're gonna go get through it, and everything that might seem negative is ultimately an opportunity to learn from your whether mistakes or trying to improve systems. So having that optimism, I guess.
Did you all start cold?
It wasn't a cold start, but like a warm start. I mean, when we started, it was brand new staff for all of us. So we didn't inherit any of the staff. And, we started with 2 kind of part-time employees.
Okay.
Which is like 1 full-time equivalent.
Yeah.
And he really learned how to do everything, be optician, front desk, doctor, all at the same time. And it's definitely a very, big learning and growing experience.
Yeah, I remember those days as well when it's just my wife and I would do everything and we'd see patients, 10, 12 patients a day. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so, Alyssa, what about you? You said family. Say more about that. Well, you said more about like approaching a community. And I think family is my word, but like, tell me more about how that helped you grow your business.
I think family, is a part of it too, because again, we're growing a family within our practice as well. But in terms of community, we started to get involved in the local La Jolla community. So we did things like uh, go to the local farmers market and booth there. We, passed out things like lens cloth cleaners and spray bottles and artificial tears, just to get our name out there. We volunteered at something else called the La Jolla Art and Wine Festival. So it was another great event where we could booze and really just get our name out there. And, something that we are kind of in the works and hopefully trying to do is work with our local Rotary program. So we have something to donate to for the community, just so we can, get our names out there, but also to give back, because we really know that, or we've seen that the La Jolla community has been gracious to us and supporting us. So we want to give back to them too.
It sounds like that's really been a big driver of your growth is that community involvement. Can you give me some specifics? Anything you can remember from a number perspective? Like, how did it help your growth? What was the most effective way you grew your business? Because I think a lot of times people come in and they say, I'm just going to pay for SEO, online advertising, all that stuff. We've also found that boots on the ground is most effective. But can you share with us your stories on, like, specifically if you can share any kind of numbers and how you grew and why that was so important to you grow?
I mean, yeah, I think from a growth perspective, like our first year, I guess if we just talk revenue for now, but or even number of patients, they probably coincide. But like on average, we've grown about I think 30 to 40%, well, like 30% year over year on average. And so that also probably means seeing 30% more patients. I don't have the exact number. I know last year we saw, I think maybe 6 to 700 new patients.
In addition to all the ones that came back.
Yeah, a lot of them came back as well, which is really nice. Um, so it's hard to say whether our boots on the ground stuff, like we didn't necessarily track that, but we do feel like now that we we sort of like planted the seed. I remember in the beginning we would walk door to door to all the businesses around, and sometimes you'll meet somebody who was like, "Oh yeah, you knocked on my door a few years ago, and here I am." I've had that a few times. Like, "Oh, great," So they didn't come right away, but then they came a little bit later. So all those little things I think have just helped, and then they had a good experience, so they referred their friends and family. I would say another number that I think reflects our efforts is like our ratings or like the reviews. I'm pretty proud to say that we went from like 0 to like over 100 in just like 3 years. All organic, and just, yeah, because we just try to let people know, we're kind of like uh, a newer business. And so we love your feedback kind of thing.
And we do incentivize our staff to help us with our reviews as well. So it definitely helps with increasing that
Yeah.
number. But a lot of patients do say that they do find us from our good Google review ratings.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's really popular. And I know that those reviews do make a difference with like ranking and, if you're the first one that comes up. So that's really smart of you all to like stay on top of it. Uh, as you're growing your business, what did you run into that you didn't expect?
Sure. Yeah. I think things that we didn't expect, I outside of patient care, it's like, oh, now that we have this building to take care of, even though, we are leasing, but we live in an old building. So something that comes top of mind is just issues with plumbing. We had a flood and leakage like 2 times a year. So maybe 6 times. And I think it's because we're right next to the beach. So there's just a lot of like corrosion in the pipes and all that stuff. So that's one thing I didn't expect, especially the frequency of these things happening. Aside from that, I mean, I think staffing woes, like the unpredictability.
I know that you're not the only ones experiencing that throughout the country. So, Alyssa, what about you? What did you run into that you didn't expect?
I think, I think we talk about this a lot in starting any type of business, but just the lack of knowledge just going into it is, really having to bootstrap, stay up extra nights to figure out how to set things up, how to deal with insurance and what companies to use.
Mhm.
We've really leaned in, thankfully, heavily to, different groups and mentors and advice to be able to get all this information. And thankfully, we've had good friends and family who are also in the business to help guide and navigate us through just figuring out, what steps to take or who to ask.
Yeah, I love that. Love that insight. Um, so why do this, right? Especially together, right? Because I mean, there's so many different ways you guys could have done it. One person does a regular job, another one just does a business. Why jump both in together with this? Like, what made you want to do that?
I think I knew I always wanted to go into some sort of a private practice. And when the opportunity came up where this practice was for sale, we said, okay, how can we not jump on it? So I think ultimately we've seen other, people do it before us. So my parents are actually both optometrists who worked in a business together. So we saw that they could do it. And, we thought that, hey, we have different skills in different areas that really complement each other. Um, at this point, I don't think I could imagine doing it by myself. So I'm really glad that I have a partner to help me build this practice together. Of course, it comes with its own set of challenges. We see each other at work. We have maybe some arguments with work, and then we bring it home. So by all means, I'm sure it comes with its own set of challenges. But I think we're stronger together. We're great clinicians separate, but we're even better business partners together.
I like that. Justin, how about you? What is your perspective on why do it together?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I share the stories sometimes, but for me, when I was in optometry school, I actually wasn't really thinking about private practice. I wasn't sure if I would ever have one, or I wasn't like at the top of my list of like priorities. So what's interesting is that, when this opportunity arose in 3 years ago, we were both working at our full-time jobs, and we're just like, oh, should we just, do this? And then seeing that her parents did it and everything, we're like, yeah, let's do this together. And it's funny because I've grown to actually really enjoy the business side of things. She was one who like ultimately wanted to practice much more than I did in the beginning.
I think he really loved it or found a passion for
Yeah.
digging into the numbers and iterating and improving, and I think that's where
Yeah.
he found his true joy for optometry,
Mhm.
is like within the business side of it all.
Yeah, that's good. That's it's always good to be able to enjoy what you do because I like you had mentioned it gets tough sometimes. So you get a lot of challenges. Um, you touched on a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about how you're dealing with staffing challenges and maybe well, let's start with there. Let's start with staffing challenges. How are you guys kind of working through that, navigating that in the current environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Cause in the beginning, as I mentioned, it was like just having only two people with people calling out. Also, like the quality when in the beginning, we weren't really sure. We didn't refine our hiring process really well. So we would just kind of hire without deeply looking at what maybe interviewing more candidates kind of thing. So we've had our fair share of just people that were not a good fit. So in the beginning, it was like that finding the right people. And then as the years went on, it's like once we do find them, and now we found them, which is great. Now it's like putting them in the right seats, figuring out should they all just be cross trained, or should we now start having just like a dedicated optician where that's all you do, right? And
Mm,
a dedicated pre-tester. Now that we have more people on our team, because now we have like five people, not full time, but maybe 3 to 4 full time equivalents. So now we've managed to shift from everybody being cross trained to now you have your focus. But some of the challenges is training, making sure that you like retain the information. Sometimes the biggest challenge is while you're seeing patients, like in between, they're waiting to up at your door to ask you a question because they don't have that autonomy yet, or like kind of the thinking like, what would I, if I can't see Dr. Nguyen or Dr. Pack, what would I do? So we're trying to train them to be more independent and stuff like that and empower them
Mhm.
ultimately.
I like that a lot. Anything specific? Like, can you tell us something specific that might work well for you that has worked, or maybe something you tried that didn't work?
Well, I do want to talk about actually my BCAT, because I think that's been a great success that we've found in our practice so far. So for listeners who maybe don't know exactly, my BCAT is actually your company that we work with. You guys train a virtual assistant, usually in a different country. Our virtual assistant is from the Philippines, and she's answering all of our phones all day long. The great part about it is that we didn't have to train her basically almost at all. We gave you our training playbook, and she learned some of the things that we usually do in our office, and basically follows our protocol, which we love, because I know every office does things a little bit differently. And it's a great way for us to manage our patient or our staff, because if someone calls out, then we still have someone to, say, answer the phone. And people aren't juggling having to see patients, that walk in and then answer the phones at the same time. So we think that's been amazing. We also do have a virtual scribe as well. So she also is from South America, in Brazil. And, same thing, she just offers that extra person or body in the room that can help with managing flow, patient load. And we really think that it's been amazingly beneficial in our practice, especially when, one or even two people call out, we can still manage a full case day without feeling overloaded.
Yeah, that's actually, I think that helps so much. So, what about insurance? How are you guys dealing with the insurance? What's your strategy around revenue management? Because costs are going up, but insurance is not paying more. And so, how do you all manage that?
Yeah. So we take the VSP and IMED as far as vision, and medical is just Medicare. That's the only one. So I think in the beginning it was definitely a struggle to learn about that stuff. But once you do, Alyssa mentioned like we made like a playbook that I think now is probably 300 pages. But the idea is just to have this written SOP so that when we're training, we don't have to constantly verbalize what we need to do. We have like some videos, some just kind of manuals that we can instantly give to our new team member about here's how insurance works. Here's like line by line, kind of like, here's what this means. And then over time with just practice, you start to get the hang of it. So I think it just takes time to learn it and dissect it and then give it to your team.
And,
right.
and I think on that note also too, I think one of the most important things with insurance is making sure that you're actually maximizing it. So I know a lot of offices, do the normal BSP and IMED for regular medical or for regular vision insurance. It's also important to note that BSP has things like essential Eyecare, essential medical care. So knowing that you can bill medical through your vision insurance for certain things with BSP, it's something that's been also key. And also making sure that we're actually getting proper reimbursements. So we do make sure we have someone that helps us go through all of our insurance, chargebacks and what we call EOBs. So explanation of benefits, to make sure that everything that we're billing out, we're actually getting paid for, especially when it comes to things like scleral contact lenses, which can be, another great revenue source. So I think when it comes to insurance, it's, knowing how to utilize it, making sure that you're getting paid for it. And then also too, knowing that there are things outside of insurance-based coverage that we can get paid for, like specialty care, myopia management, and, dry eye, things like that. So being able to work also around insurance is the key in making sure that we have some success.
Makes sense. I like that.
And I also want to say too, like these insurance have their manuals. It's always available. So it's like I remember in the beginning, I took the time to read almost all of it page by page to get a better understanding, and then uploading those manuals into like our Google Drive to tell staff like, hey, if you have a question, try to like open up the manual, control find, see if you can figure out this thing first before, you kind of ask us. And then we also even tell them, well, maybe ChatGPT can help too. They can help read the manual and get you a head start. Otherwise, of course, calling them is also helpful. So calling like VSP or IVED, their phone line, their customer service, and see if they can help, you know. Um, and I think you asked a question about myopia management. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, just in general, like how are you kind of growing the business and dealing with that? And I think you brought up myopia management is one of the ones that you look to. So I'm guessing you guys are doing specialty type services like myopia management as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, with those are specialty services. So that's kind of outside of insurance, and we're just really transparent with patients, like trying to help them understand that, like this is a specialty service that we're doing a lot of like testing that goes beyond just like your routine exam. Um, and ultimately, we're just trying to help your child, fight myopia and reduce that progression as much as we can.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Myopia management is definitely something that we've leaned into. And what we do, we offer all services. So, atropine eye drops, the FDA approved Stellus lenses now, Ortho-K, soft
Hmm.
lenses. So I know, when providers choose to go in on myopia management, we always just recommend, really, go all in, make sure that you're offering all services and can treat the patient appropriately.
I like that. Excellent. And let's talk about the future a little bit. What are you most excited about for your offices and for the industry? And you can start with whatever direction you want to go with that one.
I'm excited about like there's always something new, whether it's the new technology or new specialty. Um, like for example, like we recently brought in NeuroLens last year, and we've seen that it's been helping a lot of our patients. So like with the binocular vision side. So yeah, that's a good question. I think just broadly that there's always something new and exciting, whether it's equipment or again new developments in myopia such as Stellus, being FDA approved. So continuing to do those things, it's nice because we enjoy the refractive and routine side, but it's really nice to do the specialty stuff and help patients in a different way. Sclerals is another example. It's really fulfilling when you like help somebody with keratoconus.
Yeah.
That's always great. You just feel good inside. Um, so yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Nice. No, absolutely. There's a lot of people who are excited about it.
Yeah, I think I'm more excited about the technology within the space itself. So I'm thinking about AI in healthcare, how we can make things more personalized to each patient. Where I'm working with Oculogics, which is again kind of an AI company within the ophthalmology space. And we think by bringing in, more technology, more AI to analyze each patient data, we can really narrow in on specific care for each patient instead of broad treatments that may work for the masses but may not work for you. So I think as we continue to improve this technology, we can get more and more focus on each individual patient. And I'm also excited about kind of the wearable space. I think, you know, outside of optometry, everyone's heard of Ray-Ban Metas and, now the new Oakley glasses. So I think a lot of technology companies are starting to understand how they can, use wearables in the eyewear space. And we're kind of in the bridge and we're in the middle of that. So those are two things that I'm excited about for future of optometry.
Those are great insights. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to ask each one of you this question separately. And maybe it's the same story. I don't know. But can you share a story that made you who you are today? It could have been when you were much younger, could have been much older, but something that was really impactful to you that says, like, yeah, this is one of the reasons why I am the way I am right now.
I think I shared earlier that both of my parents are optometrists, so kind of always grew up in this space and in this sphere. And when I was actually in 5th grade, I started to notice that, or actually, I think my teacher noticed that I started to have blurry vision. Because one of the funny things about having optometrists as parents is that they probably didn't check my eyes as much as we recommend checking other people's eyes. So, they brought me into the office. Of course, they checked my eyes and they realized, oh, she is nearsighted. She needs her first pair of glasses. And so, got my first pair of glasses. And my dad was kind of he was an earlier adopter to something called orthokeratology, or the hard lenses that you sleep in at nighttime. And so at around probably the age of 9, he decided, okay, let's try this out. Let's put on this lens on her eye. He started me in orthokeratology, and I just thought it was, the bee's knees. I thought it was amazing. I put in the lenses, I sleep in them, I wake up, I take off the lenses, and I still have clear vision. So it completely changed up, how I felt. I got to take off the glasses. I felt like I was, having a glow up. My friends, asked, hey, where are your glasses? I'm like, oh, I don't need them anymore. And so it was a total transformation. And I just thought that it was such a significant part of me growing up and experiencing, how eyes can really shape how you feel and how you project yourself onto the world. And, since that experience, I've always felt that, hey, if that's how I felt growing up, maybe I can do that for other people as well, in my career. So it was a significant part of me becoming an optometrist. And I always look back at the experience and, I'm so grateful that my dad was an early adopter and kind of changed my perspective.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool story. Yeah, I was about to say, you must have been really on the cutting edge there.
I think ortho-K has been out there for a while,
Hmm.
but definitely not as mainstream as when he first started.
Justin, do you have a story you want to share beyond what got you into optometry?
Sure, because I mean, the question was kind of like what made you kind of who you are as a person, and it got me thinking about just. I think Alyssa can maybe attest. Like, I'm somebody who enjoys like personal development and just challenging yourself, and I think, uh, although I don't know what really necessarily sparked that, but I think that's ever since I was like little, I enjoyed challenging myself, whether it's like sports in high school or um, now I'm like really into like running marathons and stuff and trying to beat that. But I think it all kind of relates in a way to like the like optometry and private practice ownership because it is challenging and it's kind of cool to be able to learn about yourself and um, just overcome these challenges through by learning these new things in the business and ultimately growing it. So yeah, you're growing the business and you're growing as a person.
I like that. So now, if you all were to look back and let's say it's about a week after you graduated OD school, what advice would you give to your younger selves?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would tell myself is, don't be afraid to step into these larger leadership roles and positions. I think growing up as kind of a shy kid, you know, I would take some leadership positions, but I would never be, the president. I would never choose to be the top spot. I would, maybe try to become a vice president or a commissioner. It still helped to grow your leadership capabilities. But sometimes you can shoot for the top and you can learn and grow a little bit more along the way without feeling like you have to dim your light.
That's actually really good insight. Appreciate you sharing that. What about you, Justin? What would you give your younger self?
So right out of OD school, I would say like when I was at that age, I was often stressed about like just the future and what my career will look like. But then you start to realize like you kind of got a long career ahead of you. So just make sure to just stop and be present in the moment and just remember that you have time to kind of think about things and weigh different options. And the second one is to just make sure, and this goes to just people who are graduating is to make sure that you kind of put yourselves in situations where you have some opportunities that are presented to you, whether that's like networking with people, because you never know whether you meet somebody or through different networks such as joining the society, that you'll get a lot of like new opportunities that you can find, like whether it's your dream job or something like that.
I like that. Those are good insights from both of y'all. Uh,
Mhm.
so if people want to get in touch with you all, where can they find you?
And we could just share our work email, I suppose, which will be office at eyecareatthecove.com.
They
Um,
can also find us on Instagram at Eyecare at the Cove. We're always open to, chatting with new docs, and especially if those are wanting to start a new practice, we love to help out and give some advice.
Well, good, good. Well, Dr. Nguyen and Dr. Pack, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
having
having us.
us.
This was wonderful.
Yeah.
Some of my takeaways from this is the community makes a big difference in terms of how you build a practice, especially a new one, and get just learning to adapt with the punches. because there's going to be things you didn't even expect that comes up, and it's sort of like known unknowns, right? You know something's going to happen, you just don't know what it is. So there's a few really good insights I got from this conversation. And thank you, audience. If you learned something and laughed, share it with the podcast with a friend. And if you subscribe, you won't ever miss an episode. And if you see a meeting link in the show notes, if you sign up for a meeting, I'll be happy to send you a copy of my book, Optometry Redefined. Thank you again, Dr. Pack and Dr. Nguyen, for being on the show. This has been another exciting episode of Optometrists Building Empires. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Optometrists Building Empires. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, visit buildingempires.live. This show is proudly sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team was born out of staffing challenges my wife and I faced together, managing multiple optometry locations. We refined our approach at Classic Vision Care and now offer our expertise to others. If you're experiencing challenges with staffing and you'd like to set up a discovery call, we'd be happy to help you and connect you with the right resources. We'll see you next time.